Just going to give it a couple of minutes just to allow people to filter in, just in case. Morning, everyone.
We'll give it a couple more minutes, just wait for everyone else to join and then we'll get started. Just give it another minute and we'll get started. Thanks all for bearing with. Okay, cool. Let's get started. So good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining us today. I'm Ellie, one of the account managers here at Keybridge, and I'm joined by Andy, the owner and managing director at Keybridge. Our goal for this session today is really simple. We want to help you understand the real risk that businesses are facing today without drowning you in tech jargon. We're going to look at what's actually happening out there, why traditional security just doesn't cut it anymore, and the practical tools and strategies you can use to keep your business safe. Think of today as a chance to step back and ask, are we really protected? And if we're not, what can we do about it? We're here to make this straightforward, relatable and actionable because cybersecurity shouldn't be confusing, it should be empowering. So let's jump in and start uncovering what's happening in the world of cyber threats and more importantly, what you can do to stay ahead of them. We're starting off today with some real world breach examples. We're then going to go on to why basic security isn't enough, followed on from the KB security stack. Andy's going to go through some certifications in insurance. We're then going to go through some phishing threats and AI with our special guest, Ross. Ross, I don't know if you want to give a quick intro.
Yeah, perfect. Really nice to meet you all, and thank you so much for your time today to take your time to join the webinar. I know time's valuable, but I'm hoping that we're going to get something really interesting out of this. But yeah, I'm Ross. I'm the product specialist for a product called KnowBe4, which focuses on the human element of cybersecurity, and we work in partnership with Keybridge to provide a managed service for the solution. Which, when we get to my part of the webinar, I'll take you through the KnowBe4 dashboard so you can see what it has to offer.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Ross. And if we've got time at the end, we'll also be going through a deep fake example. Before I hand over to Andy, I just wanted to give you a question to think about during today's webinar. If your business was to disappear tomorrow because of a cyber breach, what would that cost you? And I'll hand over to Andy now, who's going to go through how attackers break in and how businesses break down.
Hi, thanks very much, Ellie. Also, this is being recorded, obviously, and it will be on our YouTube channel as well for anyone that hasn't been able to join today. We did actually have to move this from 2 weeks ago, so not everyone might be joining because obviously it might clash with other things. So anyway, I'll get started. So first of all, as this is about cybersecurity, I apologise, I'm doing a bit of a death by PowerPoint. However, I do hope that you do gain some useful information and insights from this. I'm going to start off with some stats to begin with. So a huge 85% now of all attacks start from phishing emails. So this does highlight the need for strong email security and strong access control. We'll be covering some of this throughout the presentation, but things like MFA, you've all heard it over and over and over again, but it just really kind of confirms how important this is. And it's constant education for staff, which Ross will be touching on obviously later in his presentation when we're looking at cyber awareness training. The 85% stat is also backed up by a quote from the Home Office that most UK cyber breaches now start with phishing emails or credential compromise. A massive 44% of SMEs have experienced payment diversion fraud in 2025, according to a UK-wide survey. This means things like fake invoices, fake invoice account calls, etc., etc. AI and phishing emails are also all connected to this, again, increasing the amount of account fraud, financial fraud that's taking place. So it's a sharp rise in this area. Definitely worth keeping an eye on. The threat landscape is changing. 2025 saw quite a few changes. Extortion attacks were still the most common approach, with criminals both looking up files and stealing data, then threatening to publish online if they weren't paid. However, attacks became faster and more effective, using automated and AI-supported tools to send convincing scam messages, steal logons, and move through systems more easily. Further to that, cyber criminal groups became harder to track. They used to be huge groups, but smaller, larger groups, but less of them. These gangs have now broken apart and were replaced by smaller, faster moving groups. This makes it even more difficult to identify who is responsible to respond quicker. So hence the constant rise in attacks. Some examples. Small and large companies were hit throughout 2025. A lot of people think it's not going to affect me. It's only going to be the big businesses. The first example here, a £9 million UK pharmaceutical was hit in 2025. Just one of many small companies hit. Within days, or within hours even, all critical systems were encrypted. They couldn't trade for 2 weeks. They lost £500,000 in revenue, and they were forced to pay the ransom. When we look at cyber insurance later, this will help hopefully alleviate fears about ransom, because quite often the cyber insurance firms can help negotiate the ransom or even prevent you having to pay a ransom, because no insurance company wants you to pay the ransom. It's a last resort. Moving on to the larger hacks, there were some really well publicised events last year and in previous years. Land Rover, Co-op, M&S amongst some of them. Land Rover was a particularly interesting one because they were shut down for weeks, and that affected massively all of their supply chain. So not only did the big boys at Land Rover get affected, all of the supply chain got affected, which then affected their ability to trade, and their cash flow ability was also really massively affected. Other companies that were hit, people like MailChimp, Zoho and SendGrid. So these are people that we all use, and as well as them being affected and their reputation being affected, it also had a knock-on effect to us, the likes of us and all of us, because of our reputation, and they were then sending out fake invoices to people like us. So all the bigger businesses can have a knock-on effect to the smaller businesses. We as a business have been involved with CFC, who are a large insurance company, and we've seen that companies being hit with ransomware, and it's not pretty. It's been very interesting to help businesses out, but obviously we want to help prevent this happening in the first place. Even with the best security and backups in place, there's still a chance of things like reputational damage, lost revenue, and inability to operate, as explained above with the Land Rover example, Co-op and MS example. So yeah, hopefully throughout this, you'll learn a bit more about how to prevent it, why it's happening, how it happens, and the tools and the systems you can put in place to help. A presentation wouldn't be the same without mentioning gift card scams. If we're talking about cybersecurity, it's still a massive area where scammers are taking money from individuals really fairly easily at the moment, unfortunately. Most common way is that a new starter is targeted, often via LinkedIn. They're monitoring LinkedIn, they see someone change jobs, they then impersonate their boss, and they send the employee a note asking them to go and buy some gift cards, pass them off the codes, they obviously then redeem the cash. And the poor employee has paid the money. This is really an education piece. This will be helped by things like cyber awareness training that Ross will touch on, but it's just constant reminding the staff. We had an incident recently where a member of staff for one of our clients had the training on their first day, and then the very second day at work, they were fooled by the scam. Very unfortunate. And then bizarrely, completely unrelated to this, but there are also fraudsters are actually manipulating physical gift cards. So even be wary when you're in the shops buying a gift card that sometimes they've already been tampered with, and the value of the card has already been redeemed. So just watch out for that. Not really related to this presentation, but I thought I'd just sneak that in there because it's quite interesting. So we've covered a few examples of when small and large companies have been breached in recent months. And now I want to just look at why it's happening despite having strong security. In today's world, MFA and conditional access is a must, as we all know, I hope, by now. But not even this is good enough anymore in certain circumstances. But to make this easy to understand, so there's a thing called session token theft, which we will touch on again later. And this is how people are bypassing MFA and conditional access. Think of MFA and passwords as the ID of when entering a nightclub or a holiday resort. So you need it to get in the first place. Once you're in, they then give you a wristband. So think of the token as the wristband. The wristband then lets you come and go as you please for the next few hours, days, or weeks. This is the issue. Once the hacker has your wristband, they can come and go as they please. They don't need to repass MFA and password. They've already presented the ID. They've got the wristband. As far as everyone's concerned, the system thinks they've logged in, so they are there to be trusted. And this is an issue because no password cracking is needed. What's happened is a member of staff has clicked on a link in a malicious email. They've fallen for the trick. They've logged in, and the hacker has an easy life because they've got your credentials. They don't need the MFA. The MFA is already passed. The activity logs look legitimate. And this works on things like 365, but also more crucially, it works on banking apps and other very important cloud apps. And this is achieved by the hacker providing a fake logon page or a malicious website browser extension, or things like malware that are steal your data. So you've gone onto a website that's dodgy, you've not got the right website protection. You could be on an unsafe Wi-Fi and the hackers managed to gain your identity through that. Or there's websites that also leak tokens. So there's loads of ways that this happens, but obviously for the hacker, this is great news. And because it's all legitimate as far as the banking app or 365 is concerned, there are no alerts to us to tell us it's happened. There's ways to prevent it though. Business Premium, which I hope you're all on if you're using Microsoft 365. With that, you can do things like lock access to specific IP addresses or specific locations and countries. When you log on, quite often you'll be given an MFA prompt. Now, a lot of our customers don't like this. They find it quite annoying, and they want us to extend the session time. This is the worst thing to do because once the hacker's in, they've got your token, they keep the token until it times out. So we've had customers ask, oh, can we just log on once a quarter? Well, no, that's 90 days where a hacker could be in your system. So weekly, fortnightly, absolute minimum as far as we're concerned. Even less perhaps. There's also additional add-ons to things like Microsoft 365. There's security add-ons that will actually block the ability to do this. It will tie the session token to a single device. So if a hacker steals the token, unless they've got your physical device, it will not work. But probably out of all of these things, education, keep training your staff, keep your staff aware of all of the possible threats and ways in which people are getting into your systems, and just make them aware and alert at all times. Now, before Ellie touches on our security stack, I wanted to just briefly touch on 365 security. Everyone's on 365, bar a few Google customers. But the security score is a very good way of just keeping track of where you are overall in your cloud security anyway. Ensure that your IT team or MSP are on top of your security score. Microsoft helped with recommendations on how to keep it up to date and keep it as high as possible. But things that you can do to keep on top of it is ensure that conditional access is turned on. Ensure that legacy methods of accessing your systems are turned off. Restrict access to certain applications. Prevent staff from registering their own apps. That's an absolute must, because that's a way that a hacker can easily get in. They fool you into registering an app and then they've got full control. There's also other things. Control Teams meetings. Make sure that uninvited guests can't join. Make sure that anonymous guests can't join. And there's much more. And your MSP, and if you're not a customer, your IT team or your MSP can obviously keep on top of this for you as well. It's very useful. And then beyond that, we have Defender for Cloud Apps. So this is another way that people are overlooking. It's one of the biggest risks we haven't really touched on yet. It's not about hackers breaking in, it's users logging into cloud apps that IT doesn't even know about. So there's a thing called shadow IT, but there's also shadow AI now. So people using things like ChatGPT where you're not aware of it, and they're putting information into it that's not meant to be in the cloud, so confidential information. Defender for Cloud Apps shines a light on what's really happening across your environment. It shows which SaaS apps are being used, how risky they are, and what data is flowing in and out of them. This is especially important because modern attackers don't always involve malware. They involve compromised accounts, risky logons, data being quietly synced to a third-party platform without you having any awareness of it whatsoever. So Secure Score tells us how well Microsoft 365 itself is configured, but Defender for Cloud Apps will tell us what users are actually doing with the cloud apps. Together, they give visibility, control, and the ability to reduce real-world risks. Whilst considering this, also take some time to think about your internal IT usage policy. Have you got a usage policy? Do your staff know what they should and shouldn't be doing with their IT? And add in an AI section. If not already done, and ensure that staff are told what they can and cannot use. E.g., remember, ChatGPT is not secure unless paid for, so stop staff uploading sensitive information. And this will help prevent shadow IT and shadow AI, and it will make you more secure as a business.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Andy. That was all very interesting. I think it was a great point on the risks with connecting to unsafe Wi-Fi networks, especially due to the amount of people working remotely now. I just wanted to reiterate as well, our aim today isn't to scare you. It's just to educate, and us being your IT MSP, we just want to do what we can to help. So on this slide, I'm going to touch on the recommended Keybridge security stack. My job as your account manager, again, is to help you understand why the tools matter. I always say, leave the complicated stuff to the help desk. That's what they're there for. My role is just to make this simple, practical, and relevant for you. So the Keybridge security stack is made up of a few tools that work together to protect you from modern cyber threats. One of the biggest foundations of your security is Microsoft Business Premium. As Andy briefly touched on, hopefully most of you are already on this, apart from a couple of Google customers that we have. Business Premium isn't just your usual Microsoft license. It includes advanced security features like device management, threat protection, and conditional access. In simple terms, it basically helps control who can access your data from where and on what device. It just adds an extra layer of security around your whole Microsoft environment before an attack can even get close. Next up, we have Bitdefender Antivirus. Think of this like a shield for your device. It protects your computers from the bad stuff, such as viruses, scams, malware, and hackers. All of the things that try to sneak in and cause damage. Our premium endpoint protection is Sentinel-1, which is monitored 24/7. Next up, we've got 365 backup. A lot of people don't realise that Microsoft actually doesn't back your 365 environment up in the way you might expect it to. So tools like this make sure your Teams, SharePoint, and Outlook data are safely backed up, meaning if anything gets deleted, you can always get it back. We then have Trillion dark web monitoring. So this keeps an eye on whether any of your business emails or passwords end up on the dark web. And if they do, you'll know immediately, so Keybridge can take action before someone tries to use them. Next up, we've got Connect Secure vulnerability scanning, which is a safety scanner that regularly checks your devices to spot problems early and keep hackers out. This helps us to spot vulnerabilities ahead of time and reduce risk. We use this for all of our Cyber Essentials Plus customers to ensure they are always compliant. Next up, we've got email security. Email security protects emails and organizations from fake, dangerous, or misleading emails that could steal information, money, or trust. We partner with Acronis for this product to keep you protected, who are arguably the best provider. And finally, one of the most important pieces, one that Ross is going to go through shortly, is the know before phishing training. We've gone through a lot about the human side of cybersecurity, and this tool does exactly that. Most cyber attacks start with someone clicking something they shouldn't do, so know before sends simulated phishing emails to your team to test and train them. All of these tools together make up the KB security stack, a layered approach that reduces your risk and keeps your business protected from every angle. Most of you will hopefully have some of these tools, if not all of them. If you're unsure on what tools you do or don't have, please feel free to drop me over an email or give us a call and we can get it all checked out for you. I'm going to pass back to Andy now, who's just going to jump in with regards to Entra P2, another recommended product that we sell at Keybridge.
Yeah, no, thanks for that. So yeah, just to reiterate what I said earlier, really. So there's some additional security add-ons to Business Premium. If you are interested, there's one that's a Defender Suite for Business. This gives you the Entra ID, which will prevent the session token theft I touched on, but it also gives you the Cloud Apps for Business, which also lets you monitor every app that your team are using online. So we can control what apps they're using on the desktops, but we can't really see what they're using online. We can't see what data is going in and out. We can't see what they're putting into ChatGPT or other AI tools you might not know about. So the Defender Suite for Business is definitely worth looking at. Okay, now, so moving on to the next area. So we've looked at what's causing pain in companies around the world. We've also looked at our security stack to help protect your business. I wanted to take a quick look at other ways of being secure can help your business, as well as other ways to further protect yourselves. And this involves certifications and cyber insurance. So Cyber Essentials and Cyber Essentials Plus, I hope most of you know what this is, or you've already got it. More and more of our customers are moving to gain CE or CE Plus. The reasons being, it's a minimum UK cybersecurity standard. Really, it's easy to obtain if you're doing the right things and you've got the right products. And then CE Plus is a way of making sure that what you said when you're saying you've got CE is actually true and you're actually monitored to check that's correct. It's often now a minimum requirement to win a large tender. It's required for any government or public sector work. And it's a stepping stone towards the more advanced standards such as ISO 27001. Companies are definitely being more strict on this. Instead of relying on the MSP or Microsoft, they really are relying on you to have this qualification. Therefore, it also means that CE and CE Plus is now a revenue generator, because without it, you may be losing a major tender. There's also a middle one, Cyber Assurance. This is a middle ground between ISO and Cyber Assurance Plus, also an IASME qualification. So if you're not really ready to go the whole hog with ISO 27001, reach out to us and we can tell you a bit more about Cyber Assurance. But ISO 27001 is far more advanced standard for security. It's not just about securing your data in the cloud. This covers everything from even gaining access to your office and building up to how each individual department manages their information security. It covers things like clear desk policy. It covers things in terms of, as I said, getting into the office in the first place. It's far more stringent, and you need a policy and procedure for everything regarding IT and information security. Effectively, Cyber Essentials proves that you've locked the doors. ISO 27001 proves that you're running a managed system of IT security. So you're taking it seriously, it's constantly monitored and measured, and you're also taking into account the risks associated with IT security. Next up is cyber insurance. So there's a misconception that companies don't need cyber insurance. Usually it's fine, the MSP will cover it, or we just don't need it because we'll find a way around it, or we're not being targeted in the first place. But this is not the case at all. And again, insurance companies are getting more strict on, as well as what systems you've got in place and what policies and procedures you've got in place, they're also getting more strict on you having cyber insurance yourself. So if you haven't got it, these are reasons why you should. Main reasons why you should have cyber insurance. Cybercrime is the fastest growing crime in the UK. Hackers and fraudsters manipulating people all the time, and companies as well, for their financial gain, as hopefully you already know. Whatever you do, whatever training you put in place, whatever systems you put in place, users will click something they should not click, and it could lead to a breach. Standard insurance does fall short. It doesn't cover half the things cyber insurance covers. Protecting your data. Standard insurance will not help recover or recreate lost or damaged data. Cyber insurance will. Cyber insurance will also help you and your IT team and your IT supplier in the event of any claim of insurance. Will not only provide extra IT support, but also forensic expertise and also PR in the instances where maybe you're facing reputational damage. But if those reasons aren't enough, another few reasons to think about. Theft of funds. A bank won't help you if you have your funds stolen due to negligence. Cyber insurance will. Theft of data. insurance won't help you regain that either. I mean, obviously we have backups in place. Our backups are encrypted. Some companies don't encrypt their backups, and the hackers will encrypt their backups as well. So theft of data. But again, the insurance company will help you try and get the data back. I think some people don't realise sometimes how valuable names and addresses are. They might think they don't hold any important data, but whatever you hold is important to someone and can be sold to someone. And then damage to digital assets often ends up with ransom demand. Even then, systems may be damaged beyond easy repair. Cyber insurance is there to help you with this as well. So hopefully that's helped you understand a bit about why certifications and cyber insurance could really be useful to your business. And if you have any questions, we work with a couple of leading insurance companies. We've worked with CFC for a long time now. We've seen what breaches look like. We've seen how scary they are. And obviously we want to help prevent that. Back to you, Ellie.
Thank you very much. So I hope the webinar has been useful so far. We've looked at some real examples from 2025 and how the overall risk environment is changing. It's clear to see these threats are becoming more common. We've also talked about the simple steps that people can take themselves and how the right tools can help. I just wanted to go through a little acronym that we use at Keybridge, and we would like to kind of push upon all of our clients to help spot phishing emails. So the acronym is SLAM. S is for sender, so checking who the email is really from. If the email address looks slightly odd, that's straight away a warning sign. Links. Hover over any links before clicking on them. If the website doesn't look right, if there's spelling mistakes, don't open it. A for attachments. Be careful with any unexpected attachments, even if they look harmless. M for message. Watch out for any urgent language, spelling mistakes, or requests for personal details. Real organisations rarely ask for this via email, so you could always give them a call and just kind of get that email verified. If something doesn't feel right, we just say stop, don't click, and ask. That pause alone can prevent a serious problem. Now we have some more exciting AI and cyber awareness to look at. So I'm going to pull Ross in from Brigantia. Thank you very much.
Hi guys, cheers Ellie. Yeah, so I think what we're going to do now is just kind of go through the human element of cybersecurity and how to protect your users. Because as Andy and Ellie have already mentioned, 91% of cybersecurity attacks start with a single phishing email and social engineering, because attackers are finding it incredibly easy these days to social engineer people and rely on that human error rather than try and bypass any existing systems that may be in place. So this is where they're finding that most success. So what we want to do is we want to build up that user awareness and build up a strong positive security culture for our organizations. And KnowBe4 have been doing this for 15 years now. So they've they're the market leaders in the space. They know what they're doing when it comes to the human element. They've never branched out into other areas of cybersecurity. This has been their full frontal focus when it comes to security, cybersecurity. So just going into probably one of the hot topics, which I know we're probably all sick about hearing about AI now, because it's literally every single, it's everywhere we turn now. I know me and my wife were looking at new washing machines the other day, and one of the key selling features was the fact that it was AI driven, which is just getting absolutely crazy now. But it's not just helping us, but it's also helping attackers. We leave behind a huge amount of data through our digital footprint, and with over 70% of the world's population online, we might feel like a needle in a haystack. But AI is acting like a magnet, and it's pulling that needle out, collecting all that data. As Ellie and Andy mentioned earlier around things like LinkedIn, where we advertise everywhere that we're starting a new job position at such and such organization, and then they impersonate the CEO within that organization to ask you to go out and get vouchers. They're not your Nigerian prince stranded on Mars anymore. They're far more targeted and sophisticated. So it's one of those where invoicers might be going to the financial department because they can find this information through social media to find out what industry we're in, what kind of person we are, what interest do we have, and what is our particular role within that organization. And it doesn't just stop there in terms of AI powered threats. I mean, the list goes on. I could spend forever talking to you about AI threats, because when you start to see things like deepfakes and real-time voice spoofing and image manipulation, this is where it starts becoming very concerning. I know I got a phone call a couple of months ago that was normally my mentality, which I'm assuming is everybody's on this call, I don't answer the phone if it's an unknown number, because we just assume it's a scam now, and attackers know this. But what they're utilizing AI for is to kind of make those phone calls for them. So I received a phone call, ignored it, but then it went through to a voicemail. So I thought, okay, maybe this is something that's actually important that needs my attention. But it turns out it was an AI-driven voice saying, someone's taking legal action against me. If I don't dial this number back immediately, it's going to get escalated to court. And they can't disclose what the reasoning is behind on the phone. And I remember thinking at the time, wow, they're getting incredibly lazy now where AI is literally doing all the heavy lifting for them. But the more I thought about that, the more I thought, actually, it's quite clever what they're doing, because if they're just sitting back and sending AI to do these phone calls, they don't have to rely on people answering the phone anymore. If I would have fallen for that attack, I'd be the one bringing the attackers back. So it's turning into more of a filtering system for them. And what concerned me the most is that it's eliminating one of the biggest hurdles that attackers had, which was time. It's saving them a significant amount of time, which then is just broadening their range of attacks. And that's where it starts to become concerning. So this is why now more so than ever, building up a security culture within your organization is absolutely vital, because we want to keep the organization safe, but we also want to keep users safe as well. Because I can confidently say every single person on this webinar today has received a phishing attempt at some point, whether it's at work, whether it's at home. I don't know about you guys, but I know I receive a higher rate of text-based phishing attacks because they utilize, as I say, phone calls, text messages, social media, WhatsApp. I'm seeing time and time again. They're not just attacking like the larger organizations like the M&Ss of the world. They're literally attacking anybody they can. And with AI, kind of taking lead on that, it's, as I say, broadening that range. So just to kind of take over from, if it'll allow me, there we go. I'm just going to kind of go through a little bit of the KnowBe4 console itself, just to give you an idea of how this ran with us, a partnership with Keybridge, of how we run the platform for you. So this is what a typical admin console would look like. So it gives you an idea of where organizational risks may lie in terms of, who's clicking on phishing links, who's not doing training, that kind of thing. And your risk score kind of has a few different factors. So it has things like, takes a lot of things into consideration now, like who's more likely to be attacked, who's more likely to fail an attack. As we mentioned, new starters, they may be more at risk because they've not had regular training as of yet, and also that CEO style fraud, because they're the ones that tend to get targeted with. But what we tend to go off of, particularly with the managed service with Keybridge, is we want to make sure that this is kind of what we take a look at, is the phish prone percentage reports. This is kind of where it gives you an idea of how likely is an organization likely to interact with a phishing email if one were to bypass any existing securities. But if I'm just going to pick up, because I'm sure there's a mixture of industries within this call, but if I just go off of just the basic all industries, and this goes off of data of all 73,000 of KnowBe4's customer base. And it's roughly around 28.7% phish prone percentage. After regular training, regular phishing simulations and building up that security culture, after 3 months, it should drop to 21.5%. And then after a year of utilizing the platform, it should drop to 4%. Now, it is our goal with the managed service to beat that average, because at least we know, one, we're doing something right, and two, we're keeping your users and organization safe. But as you can see, the main reason why I highlight this is because it does take time and effort to change user behavior, because we are creatures of habit at the end of the day, aren't we? But we want to make sure that we're changing those habits to far more secure habits. And it is going to take time and effort, but it is effective over time. But just going into the phishing simulations, now there's a number of templates that are on the KnowBe4 platform. UK relevant ones, there's around 8,000 UK specific ones. And the reason why there's so much on the KnowBe4 console is because 60% of these templates actually were real world attacks that users are reporting, because KnowBe4 thought, we've got all this threat intelligence around the world, why are we not utilizing it? So that's exactly what they're doing. They're utilizing those real world attacks that circulate, because as we know, there's certain trends throughout the year and when attackers know when to fire specific kinds of phishing emails. I know build up to Christmas, for example, there's a lot of delivery themed style phishing emails that tend to circulate, which I'm sure we've all seen, like DHL and DPD, because they know people are ordering around that time. April time, end of the financial year, you're owed some tax back, click on this link to claim it back, kind of thing. I know January time, we were seeing a lot of users receive emails around impersonating their HR department saying, you're owed a payment review this year, or you're owed an extra day's holiday, which everybody loves an extra day's holiday. So it's very easy to overlook those red flags within those phishing emails. But as you can see here, there's a number of different categories that we will tailor to your specific organization. So we will make them as industry relevant as we can. That doesn't mean to say we won't throw in a couple of curveballs from time to time, because we always get surprised how often people tend to let the guard down with certain kind of attacks, particularly when they don't look malicious. I know, without throwing him under the bus, one of our colleagues fell for one that was about a lost puppy loose outside the building that the owners provided a picture. Now, in all fairness to him, it did look like it came from our HR department, and apparently he did hear a conversation in the office saying somebody's talking about a puppy. So he's heard the word puppy subconsciously and assumed, oh, this must be what they were talking about. So he's put two and two together and assumed that must be what they were talking about. So if that was the case, the attacker, i.e. the managed service team, has just caught them at the right time, or the wrong time, should I say, because if he would have been working from home on that day, or if it would have come through a day earlier or a day later, he might not necessarily get interacted with it. But because he's heard that conversation, he's interacted with it. But one of the key things here is, it's not our lack of ability of identifying a phishing email. Every single person knows not to click on a dodgy link. We all know that. It's a matter of timing. Is this email coming through? First of all, is it relevant? Is it coming through when we've got 1,000,001 things going on, which we typically do within our job roles? We do have hundreds of things going on at one time. We're trying to multitask. And this is where we start to overlook red flags, like things like slight spelling mistakes within the email domain, for example. But going back to what Ellie was talking about around those red flags within phishing emails, this is what we want to start becoming second nature to users. So this is how we typically utilize the simulations. Is we want to make sure they're as randomized as they can be as well. I feel like that's an important point, because one, we don't want any predictability. No one's going to get the same email as someone else within the organization. No one's going to receive it at the same time as someone else either. So we want to avoid that issue of people going, oh, don't click on that. It's a simulation. I received the exact same this morning. Because we need every single individual to think for themselves. We're all in charge of our own inboxes at the end of the day. We want to make sure that everybody is putting this into practice. So we do the phishing simulations on a weekly basis, unless requested otherwise, because this is where we've seen a significant reduction in risk. We let users know they're going to receive them. That's another important point, because we don't want users to feel victimized if they fail it. We don't want them to feel like the company's trying to catch them out, because that's not the goal here. We don't see a failure as a negative. We see it as a training opportunity. So this is just an example of a 365. Apologies for those that use Google, but we can tailor to Google users if needed. But we want to encourage to check those email domains, as Ellie mentioned. It's not going to say no before demo.com, because that will completely defeat the object, but we can customize that, because this is something that I was extremely guilty of, because 9 times out of 10, you see an email that you trust, or it's coming from someone that we trust, we tend to let our guard down, but we want to encourage that everyone's just checking those email domains a little bit in a bit more detail. Dear user, instead of the user's name, are they hovering over those links rather than interacting with them? Because as you can see here down in the bottom corner, it's taking me to a website called terraform.com. So that's not Microsoft, so that's another little telltale sign there. And they always add a sense of urgency or a consequence, like the phone call I received where it said, if you don't dial this number back, it's going to get escalated to court. They always add a consequence, because if you're not already in that panic state, or you've got 1,000,001 things going on where you're a little bit stressed, because we've got that fight or flight mentality activated when we're in that state where we act as emotion. That's part of human nature. We act on emotion, we act on impulse. But to have these simulations on a regular basis and make people aware they're going to receive them is going to encourage them to take an additional 10 seconds to review these emails in a bit more detail, in a more calm state, where we can look at these emails and have a more considerate response. If anybody does interact with this, then it will take them to a landing page. As I say, we don't see this as a failure, but it'll take them to a landing page that'll say, oops, clicked on a simulation. Don't worry, it's not the end of the world. But these are the key things to watch out for next time. And it'll actually show them the red flags that they should have spotted. Because if they go, I didn't notice the spelling mistake within that email domain, I know to put that into practice next time. And it's just that repetition and training the brain. And eventually it will become second nature for every single user within the organization. And that is where we see that significant reduction in risk, because if they're actively seeking out a simulation, they're going to be far more likely to spot a real attack if one does occur. But going into, so there's 3 key pillars when it comes to a security awareness training platform. And one of them is the phishing, one of them is the training, and one of them is the reports. So the reports are probably one of the most important pieces of the puzzle when it comes to a security awareness training platform. Probably one of the most boring, but it's one of the most important ones, because we want to get a good, strong understanding on where organizational risk may be in terms of who's clicking on links, who's not doing the training, that kind of thing. And because every single organization is different. So this is exactly why we have this managed service team behind this, because if we need to start changing our approach, we're not just going to fire the same training and simulations to everybody and hope that that's going to stick, because in reality, that's not going to work. That's not going to reduce risk. We want to make sure that we're having that more tailored approach if we need to. We need to address particular concerns, because if people are going as far as not just clicking on a link like I did there, but they're going as far as entering their data credentials within a fake 365 sign-in page, we want to make sure that that risk activity is being addressed. So we might enroll them in that what we call point of failure training to make them aware this is how data harvesters work and this is what to look out for, because all these templates within the platform can be customized. So as I say, we can make them look like they're coming from someone internally. Not that we're trying to catch people out. I always emphasize on this that we're not trying to catch people out and point fingers, because we don't want to create a blame culture, because that's just going to encourage people to keep things to themselves. But we want to make sure that at the end of the day, attackers are not going to take it easy on us. So we want to work a similar way. So we might want to add QR codes within these emails, because that's the sort of thing that attackers were utilizing last year, because they were bypassing existing email filters. But what we can do as well is we can, as I mentioned, customize that landing page. So if we want to, let me get a bit quicker, impersonate 365 and we take them to a signing page, this is where it starts to work as those data harvester driven attacks. Because if they go as far as entering their data credentials, if this was a real attack, that would be game over, because they've got access to their credentials. And if they were anything like me, which I will point out, I don't do this anymore, but I used to use the same password for multiple things. This is not the case anymore, because I learned very, very quickly how easy it was to reverse engineer those passwords. So it was a little bit of a wake-up call for me. So if they got access to my credentials this way, they probably would have had access to multiple things. But going into probably the last piece of the puzzle, because I am aware of the time, is probably the training. So going into the training side, I mean, I'm not going to spend too much time in here, but just to give you an idea of what we can cover within the KnowBe4 console, because there's something for everybody within this console. This is where most of KnowBe4's budget goes, because they see so much value in this training. First of all, we want to make sure that training is as bite-sized as it can be, because let's be honest, 45-minute to an hour modules, they're not going to work. They're not going to keep people's attention, and it's going to encourage the behavior. Again, something I used to do is skip to the end, keep redoing the quiz until you get it right, which is great for a box ticking exercise, but it's not lowering organizational risk. So we want to make sure it's bite-sized, engaging, light-hearted, but effective. So we actually do the training on a more regular basis, because as Ellie mentioned earlier, it's all about keeping security front of mind. So we cover topics around attack vectors. So if we need to get the message across around things like ransomware or social engineering, that's something that we will put together. CEO fraud, as we mentioned about those new starters, this is probably really important as that onboarding process for new starters, because we want to make them aware, look, you may get an email from the CEO or managing director. Don't believe that it's them. Don't fall for it, because this could happen. So just expect it. So it's making them aware from the get-go. So we're keeping them safe. But this is where it starts to branch out in other areas of cybersecurity as well. So this is something that we've already kind of touched on throughout the webinar, is things like passwords and authentication. Social media, are we sharing too much on social media than we should be? Wi-Fi devices, as we've mentioned. Be careful that we're not connecting to open Wi-Fi's, because they could be malicious devices. AI has made its own category now, not just around AI-driven attacks, which we've mentioned, but also, again, don't be entering any information within those open AI engines, because I know this is a big thing going to policies, where a lot of organizations are creating policies around the usage of AI. Be careful that you're not entering sensitive data within these free ChatGPT and open AI engines. But leading on to policies, KnowBe4 can actually be utilized as a learning management system as well. So you can get message across around compliance. This is something that you would get as part of the KeyBridge package, where you can use it as a compliance platform. So you can get messaging across around things like GDPR and PCI, anti-bribery and corruption, sexual harassment, anti-money laundering. This is already integrated within the KnowBe4 platform as well, and updated with the new UK laws that will cover this from a compliance perspective. And it'll also give you the ability to upload your own policies or content as well. So if you ever need to roll out and have all your training under one umbrella, that's something that we can help you do. But just before we wrap up, I mean, there's so many different styles of training within this. So all these topics that I showed you can be explained in so many different ways, because as we know, everyone's different. Everyone learns differently, takes in information differently. So like me, for example, I learn by being a little bit more hands-on. So I benefit from like gamification or training modules that might have a couple of interactive things. But I was very, very skeptical of video modules, because I've seen video modules in the past where they're very animated, patronizing pirates jumping around the screen telling you to be safe online. And I remember seeing these for the first time and thinking this is going to be even worse because it's real people. And the acting is going to be incredibly cringy. I was very, very wrong, because when I actually looked into restricted intelligence, for example, I mean, this is a company called Twist and Shout that are actually based in Leicester in the UK. So it's very UK relevant. And restricted intelligence is a little bit like the Office style TV series. I'm not going to sit here and pretend it's as good as the Office because it's not, but it does a very, very good job at getting security awareness principles, but through storytelling. And it's very good at being quite funny, quite entertaining. But like this one about passwords, it's actually about them leaving passwords with post-it notes written down all over the computer screens. And most of these are all professional actors. I'm the really sad person that keeps pointing these people out every time I see them in something. Like I've recently seen this guy in the new F1 movie with Brad Pitt, so this guy's doing all right for himself. So, they're not just your average Joe off the street. They're very, very good and very professional at what they do. But as I say, it's not always going to work for everybody, these Netflix-style TV series. There's so many different ways that we can get these messages across. As I say, there's a lot of things that Know Before doesn't shout about, which I'm very surprised because things like audio casts, like this is like a true crime podcast, and this one's particularly about a guy called Alan Andrews that investigated the breach on the Newcastle hospital that happened a couple of years ago. And he kind of tells the story of how they got breached and how they overcame that breach. And it's very good for people that are not typically behind a desk that might want to do this on their commute. So we roll these training out on a 3-week basis, but we don't expect that everyone's going to stop what they're doing and do the security awareness. This is another reason why it's bite-sized, because we don't want to take away from productivity. To put 5 minutes aside on a monthly basis, it's not a lot to ask, and you find that people do actually get engaged with it, and because it's not such a chore to get round to doing. I am aware of the time again, so I apologise for running over. I think I'm going to shut up now. So I'm going to pass over back to Ellie. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Ross.
More than welcome.
Thank you. So I just wanted to just jump in. I've just got a quick couple more things to go through. It's not taking me to the slide I need to be at. Sorry, bear with me. I think Andy's going to go through here just a quick section on deep fake scams.
Literally, just because I know we're really way over time, so I'm going to cut this down to really short. But obviously, we've talked about scams, hacking, breaches. AI, is mentioned by Brigantia, is on the rise, and deepfakes are definitely a big concern for some people. Companies have been duped into paying thousands and millions actually through falling for deepfake phone calls and videos. You can obtain open source software now online to set up effectively a fake webcam and impersonate your CEO. You'd look like them, sound like them, and look. Just looking at this slide, there's 3 examples here where companies have actually fallen for this, and they've transferred millions because they thought they were dealing with their CEO. I was going to hopefully try and set up a live deepfake example today. I just ran out of time, but we have got a very quick video just to show you how easy it is to impersonate someone using this AI technology. The scary thing is it doesn't take that long now, and with the software available, anyone can do this on their computers if they're powerful enough. And as I said, it can be used in real time. So again, just something else to watch out for. Back to you, Ellie.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So I'd just like to take this opportunity to thank everyone for joining the webinar. We've touched on some key areas, but there's a lot more to all of this. So please do speak to us if you'd like clarification on anything we've gone through. As Ross was kind of going through that Know Before platform, we can arrange demos which we can kind of tailor more individually to your business. We can also do a review of your security stack. So if you're not sure what tools you have or what you don't have, feel free to just reach out to me directly via email, or you can always phone in the help desk. We'll stick around for a couple of minutes if anyone's got any questions, but apart from that, thank you all very much for joining and taking the time out today.
I think that's it. I think we'll end it there. Thanks again, everyone, and see you next time.
Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers,
Thanks,
Ross.
Ross.
Thank you.
Thank you.